Kia ora koutou katoa, it's Mrs. Goodson here, and this is a video about collecting data for a science investigation, and it's to do with our level 1 science investigations that we're going to be looking at, but it actually applies to all situations where you need to collect data for a science investigation or indeed for a maths investigation anytime that you need to organise data. So we collect data in a results table so that we can organise it. And in this part of uh, this is where we're going to put the label for our independent variable. So in our biology investigation, it could be the duration of exercise, the amount of time exercising in seconds. Okay, so we put the units in the top of the table and the labels at the top, the titles, the headings, so that we don't have to label each box. Okay, so the independent variable is going to go in this box here. The dependent variable, the thing we're going to measure, is going to go over here. So in our investigation, it's either going to be breathing rate in breaths per minute or heart rate, which is in beats per minute. So we always do heart rate and breathing rate in per minute, which is 60 seconds, okay? So we need to make sure that we convert, so we could take it just for 10 seconds and times it by 6, or we could take our heart rate for 30 seconds and times it by 2. Whatever we do, we've got to make sure that we consistently put it in back into beats per minute. So up here, we're either going to write breathing rate or heart rate. Then we're going to do trial 1, trial 2, and trial 3, and then we're going to take the average, all right? So our average is going to go in there, and then we go down here, we're going to put the independent variable. So we're going to start with 0 seconds. So that's our resting heart rate or our resting breathing rate, and we're going to put that, do 3 trials and take the average. Then we might exercise, say we're going to do push-ups. We're going to do push-ups for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, and 30 seconds. Now you can decide, it's your investigation, what independent variable you're going to do. So are you going to do intensity of exercise? Are you going to do duration? You're going to do type of exercise? And then each one you're going to have collect some data. So you need to think about, what are you going to keep the same? Probably you're going to keep the same person doing it on the same day. Otherwise, that might affect the results. So, and in between each trial, it's going to be really important that you rest between each trial, because otherwise what happens is your heart rate goes up and up and up, and it's not a fair test. Okay, so part of collecting the data is thinking about control variables, and as you go along you might come across some problems that you need to think about and solve as you do your investigation. Then you're going to take the averages. The averages will be down here, and the averages is what you're going to plot on your graph, which is I'm going to cover in the next video. So here's an example of a results table. Now, in this particular example, it's duration of exercise. So that's our independent variable. And see, we've got the units. Really important that you put the units in here. And I've actually put the units in every box, but I didn't really need to. I could have just had it in the top in the heading. And then up here, I've got the dependent variable, which is in this case breathing rate. So we're either going to do breathing rate or heart rate. And the person, and you're going to work out the method for the best way of collecting that data. And then we're going to each in here, we're going to have the data points. Okay, so resting breathing rate might be I don't know, 13 breaths per minute, and then 12. Okay, so each trial's not going to be exactly the same. So you'll need to just put the data into there and work out the average. Now, the way you work out the average is you add these 3 trials together and divide by how many trials there are. So in this case, we would say this was 14. And I don't want to confuse you here. So 12. Get the pen back. Okay, so we've got 12, 13, 12, 14, and we're going to take the average here. So we're going to add these together. So we've got 25, 35, 39, 39 divided by 3 is 13, okay? So it does work out that the average should be about in the middle, okay? So we're trying to get rid of the extreme values. And if there was a value in here, say this value was not 12, say it was 30 for some reason, it really doesn't fit in with our average. So what we're going to do is circle it and not count that in our average. We would just add these two together and divide by 2, and then our average would be 13.5. Okay, so we call these outliers. If you get any outlier data, if you've got time, you'd repeat the trial. That would be best practice, but otherwise you're just going to ignore it in your average. So that's the results table. It's really important that you lay out your table from smallest independent variable to largest so that you can get a picture just by looking at the data table, that you'll be able to start to see the pattern. But so that's really important, that these are from smallest to biggest or biggest to smallest, it doesn't matter, but they need to be in order. So here's just a list of what makes a good results table. Clear headings in the title, and it's really, really important that you put the units. So please remember the units, okay? So organize from lowest to highest number, or from highest to lowest, either is fine, as long as they're in order, okay? The units are the same throughout the table, so we want it all in seconds, or all in beats per minute, all right? Not beats per 30 seconds in one box and beats per 15 seconds in another box. So we need to be able to change from minutes to seconds, and we need to be able to change from beats per 10 seconds into beats per minute just by timesing by 6, or beats per, say we take our heart rate for 30 seconds, we're going to times it by 2 every single time, okay? We're going to calculate the average. So you need to make sure you know how to calculate the averages, and the outliers are circled and ignored. Always just repeat the measurement if you get some sort of problem with your investigation, which is okay because then you can talk about it in your evaluation. Okay, so this video has been about how to draw a results table with the correct headings with units. Accurately use a stopwatch. So what I want you to do is do a practice of collecting data. So actually use a stopwatch to time someone doing some exercise, and practice changing minutes and seconds into seconds. Record the data in the results table. Practice taking heart rate. Practice breathing rate. So breathing rate is quite interesting because you can control your breathing. So you need to think about how you're going to make sure it's a fair test when people can either slow down purposely or speed up their breathing rate. All right. So, and then practice taking your pulse or counting your breath for 10 seconds and multiplying it by. So, if you take your pulse for 10 seconds, you need to multiply 6 to get it beats per minute. Remember, beats per minute is going to be our gold standard for heart rate. And or you could take your heart rate for 30 seconds and multiply it by 2. Okay, so that's going to go into our table here is breathing rate or breaths per minute. So your results table is going to be really important evidence to show that you've carried out your investigation and that you've carried out a fair test. So this video has been all about results tables.